Right, I'm sitting here in Inverness in the offices of the MacDonald Partnership, which is the North's leading insurance broker and financial services provider, with Ewen MacDonald, the Scottish skip, who will be leading Scotland's challenge in this year's Men's World Curling Championship in Beijing. Now, many thanks, Ewen, for taking the time to speak to Gurn Curling and the wider Gurn diaspora. Ewen, considering how curling became a phenomenon across the UK thanks to David Murdoch and Eve Muirhead in the Olympics and Aileen Nielsen's tremendous efforts in the Paralympics, how disappointed are you that neither the BBC nor Sky Sports are covering the World Championships?
No, you're absolutely right, Michael. And just before we go on to that, can I just say thanks to you guys for your interest in our activities out in Beijing, and of course to Gurn Curling and the TV for broadcasting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an opportunity that comes around every. The World Championships are obviously every year. There's a lot of exposure. There's a great opportunity to cover our sport and show it in the best light it can possibly be shown. There's nothing better apart from the Olympics really than the Worlds. And every 4 years you tend to find that there's this great profile, there's a lot of phenomenon, there's a lot going on, and then all of a sudden it just falls off the edge of a cliff, it disappears. And it's really just because we're representing Great Britain at the Olympics. When it comes to Scotland, England, Wales, whatever it might be, then the activity is far, far less. So it's, you know, for me a lot comes down to the governing body too. They should be more involved in this, they should be having a bigger impact, negotiating with BBC, Sky Sports, Eurosports, all these bodies to get more coverage. And especially, as you rightly say, when the profile of the sport is so high just now with the great success of both Dave, Eve and Aileen in the Paralympics. So there's no better time really than to keep the profile up there and to increase it. There's been such great viewing numbers down in England as well, so you broadcast it nationally. Then, you know, the number of people I've spoken to since the Olympics have said, you know, they've been in bars, they've been in restaurants, they've been in all sorts of places, meetings and things, and all that was going on in the background was the curling, you know. So it's a great opportunity, and for me, for them not to grasp that opportunity and really bring it on and do what they can for the sport is quite disappointing, you know, it's massively disappointing. So yeah, hopefully time will change that. And you know, I think Canada is such a strong sport, such a strong nation now, because they broadcast it so widely. You know, it doesn't have to be their Briar, their national championships, just anything really. You know, their national events are massively covered. You know.
Okay, thanks, Ewen. You and your team, Ewen, are in tremendous form at the Scottish Championships, which you have won, I think, 7 times now. You were undefeated throughout the whole tournament, which is quite remarkable. Now, to represent Scotland, in the Worlds, you have to win the Scottish Championships. And for those that do not follow Gurn Curling, it might appear slightly puzzling as to why David Murdoch and his rink were not able to play in the Scottish Championships. Could you explain this, how this apparent abnormality came about?
They're just not good enough. No, you're absolutely right, Michael. It's quite a bizarre one, I think. I mean, I've been lucky enough to play in other Olympics, and every time we came back from the Olympics, we had our national championship straight on the back of it. But the powers that be this time round decided that they didn't want the Team GB, the British representatives, to be playing in our national championships because they wanted them purely focused on the Olympics. You know, for me that's nonsense. At the end of the day, if you're at the Olympic Games and you're thinking about the Scottish Championships, there's something wrong. I don't think you should be there in the first place.
No.
And you know, it's quite a strange one. And I think on the guys' side, it's disappointing for Davey and the boys. I think on the girls' side it was a much bigger issue. I think for Eve and the girls not to have the opportunity to go to the World Championships, which are on at the moment in St John in Canada, to defend their world title is really, for me, is really disappointing for the girls. And you know, I've spoken to Eve quite a bit about it, and she's really, really disappointed about it. And I think, you know, from my perspective, I was disappointed the boys weren't there. I would have much rather the guys were in the Scottish Championships. And hopefully it doesn't take anything away from our win, obviously, but I'd have preferred the guys were there as well, because you want to beat everybody that's in your track, don't you? Yeah. But yeah, it's disappointing, and it's hard to figure out.
It could have been fixed so easily.
Yeah. Then it'd be these decisions, you know.
Yes. Ewen, all those who follow Gurn Curling know that you're a 3 times world champion. Number 2 to Hammy in '99, you won at number 3 with David Murdoch in 2006, 2009. Ewan Byers was lead in 2006, 2009, and Duncan Fernie has been to the Worlds. How big an advantage to the team will that previous experience in the World Championship be in the 17,000 seater Capital Arena in Beijing?
No, it's a good point, Michael. I think it is the worlds are it's a much bigger deal. Going out there and playing in front of potentially 17,500 folk in the capital arena is going to be pretty exciting, and I think China becoming the nation that it is just now in curling, it's really, really strong. The Chinese boys were very unfortunate not to medal in Sochi, but they're a really, really strong force to be reckoned with, and it's going to be tough. They're going to be tough, but I think they're 21 million population in Beijing, you'd have to think they're going to get some pretty strong support, so it'll be tough in there against them. There's going to be a lot of noise in their favour, but there's no doubt that having been and played in quite a few World Championships and managed to win a few and things like that, it's going to make a big difference. And it's all about handling yourself, I think, in that arena, in that situation. It's preparation, it's dealing with the crowds. It's going to could be quite patriotic towards the Chinese, depending who you're playing. There could be quite a lot of Canadians as well, and historically they've always been quite patriotic against their guys. So it'll be a bit of an eye opener for Davey, and I think he's obviously been to Worlds already. So all these experiences are things that make you stronger and bring you to the party in a better place.
Yes.
And we're lucky to have some good experience and some good guys on the team to help that.
Well, there'll be a lot of vocal support from myself and other members of Nairn Curling Club will be there, so don't worry about vocal support, we'll be there. Now, Canada are ranked number 1, Scotland number 2 in the World Curling Federation rankings. China is actually number 7 and rising very quickly. Canada have won the Worlds an amazing 34 times. Scotland have won it 5 times and runners-up a remarkable 20 times. Now you, David Murdoch and Ewen Byers beat Canadian legend Kevin Martin in the final in Canada in 2009. Canada v Scotland, it's up there with some of the great sporting derbies. You've got Real Madrid, Barca, you've got Rangers, Celtic, you've Nairn County, Forest Mechanics, just to name a few. Ewen, how special is the Canada-Scotland game?
I think for everybody, and I think for all the guys like myself and all the Scottish teams, they want to play Canada in the final, and I think a lot of people want to see that final as well. Yeah. They've always been, the head-to-heads between Canada and Scotland, they've always been very tight. They've always been, it's always right up there with the great games that are in World Championships, and some of the best finals in the world have been Canada and Scotland. I think the thing about this is that Canada obviously won the World Championships 34 times in comparison to Scotland winning it 5 times. If you look at the magnitude of curling in Canada, it's on a completely different level, compared to Scotland. And thanks to you guys at Gurn Curling and increasing the profile of this and trying to get out to the public to make this a bit wider known and to spread the love of it, then this will hopefully help it. But the end of the day, in Canada, coast to coast, you've got coverage of a World Championships, of a Briar, of a Scott Tournament of Hearts, of a Grand Slam event. It doesn't matter. There's millions of people are watching it week in, week out. And hence why it's such a strong participation sport in Canada, and why there's so many strong teams coming out of there. And there's potentially probably half a dozen teams that could win out of Canada and still perform very strongly in the Worlds. You couldn't say that for Scotland, Sweden, Norway, anywhere like that. These countries have got a couple of good, strong teams that can perform on the world level, and that's really where the big gulf comes from. But from my perspective, I've been lucky enough to play Canada in the 3 World Finals I've managed to win. So it'd be nice to play them again, that's for sure. In a week Sunday, and we've got a good record against them. And I think the big thing about Scotland against Canada, and certainly from my team's perspective, is we don't fear Canada. A lot of nations do. They're a very dominant nation in our sport, there's no doubt about it. But they've only got 4 guys on the sheet against your 4 guys.
Have you played them before?
Yeah, I played against Kevin Coy a few times, yeah. I know Kevin from playing against them in previous Grand Slam events and things that I played in previously, so I know Kevin and the guys really well. Okay. They're a good bunch of boys, and they're a good team, they're a really strong team. So. But at the end of the day, you've just got to look at it that they've got 2 rocks each. There's 4 guys playing against 4 guys. Yeah. You've just got to put yours in the right position. Yeah. So I think if you approach it like that, you're not going there to make up the numbers and give yourself the best chance of beating them.
Absolutely. Now, lastly, you personally have had a very successful season in local Highland curling. You've retained the Division 1 Super League. But looking forward to next season, everyone recognises the extra pressure that's going to be on you now that Ali Asher's ultra competitive Nairn rink has been promoted. Along with, I have to say, Sandy Renfrew. Ewan, how confident are you of retaining your Super League title?
It's a very good question, Michael. And actually, I've been fortunate enough to play in a tournament not so long ago in Prague with the mighty Ali Asher, and he played third to me, so I know exactly what his talents are. I know where his strengths and weaknesses are, and I go into next year with some trepidation, I must say, because he's a strong force, you know.
Yes.
Outside Sandy.
Yes. I too played in that team, Ewan, so I recognise your relative strengths and weaknesses. Ewan, thank you. It's been a great pleasure, and I personally look forward to covering your progress live from Beijing for Gurn Curling, if technology allows, and filling the void, the massive void left by the BBC and Sky. It's Michael Green for Gurn Curling Inverness, and as they say in Beijing, Zahuai Gurnites. That's goodbye. Thank you, Ewan.
Thank you.